Chapter 11. Music as Necromancy. Like a mad scientist impatiently blending chemicals in his laboratory to get just the right filter, LeVay stands before his keyboards, adjusting the controls to achieve a precise combination of tones. The attack, sustain, and decay envelopes are carefully altered in the ways he knows will summon the most effective sounds for his purposes. What begins as something of a hissing noise slowly changes tone, running up and down the scale as he depresses the keys. Another twist of a knob and a slider pushed up sharpens the overtones to a more metallic ring. After a half hour or so of trial and adjusting, the hissing sound has become a disturbingly accurate reproduction of a burlesque-style sizzle cymbal. LeVay smiles, giving his new sound a test run with a raunchy version of Night Train. After spending years playing wheezy calliopes, trying to keep the steam pressure steady so they wouldn't blow up in his face, or old theater organs that had only one or two presets functioning, with a quarter of the notes either not working or ciphering, a note that continues to play after the player's finger leaves the key, LeVay is dismayed by how far we've come technologically while falling behind musically. The old Hammonds were great fun to play, though. They're built like pinball machines. You could just play the hell out of them. You didn't have to worry about complex registrations. Just play the music. But you just couldn't get any of the range of sounds you can get on the simplest synthesizers today. Most people lack the patience and skill it takes to adequately reproduce the complex sounds he uses. I spent hours creating a kazoo on a synthesizer costing thousands of dollars. A profit 5. When I could have had the real thing for 25 cents. Time and time again, he has been told certain things are impossible or unnatural to the programming possibilities of the synthesizer. Unheeding of these widely accepted limitations, LeVay develops authentic approximations of real instruments. I can play the Flight of the Bumblebee with my feet. I can play the Minute Waltz in 45 seconds. And I can play fast, slow. I probably had the best keyboard training possible by playing on circus lots and along the carnival midway, says LeVay. What the keyboards lacked in realism, you had to make up for in technique. You can't play a trumpet sound, for example, like you'd play a sweeping string sound. A live trumpet player would run out of breath. The tuba is an easy instrument to blow into, but by the time the notes emerge, they're in big, fat belches. When you play an accordion, you're moving the bellows in and out all the time. So when you play it on a synthesizer, just using the swell pedal to make it louder and softer makes the illusion more believable. LeVay hardly plays the top 40, nor does he play elevator music. His single qualification for good music is strict. It has to be evocative. I refuse to be a musician's musician. The lyrical romantic tunes of the 30s and 40s predominate, though he also uses effective music from the 20s or 60s as long as it fits his criterion. Music has been a consistent element in LeVay's life, and has always played songs largely neglected, the real occult music. If I didn't have these keyboards, I don't know what I'd do. It's the one thing that acts as a kind of anchor. Whenever someone starts minimizing me, and I hear it so much that I start believing it myself, I can sit at these keyboards and I could do things that no one else can do. Remember songs that no one else remembers. Play songs in a way that they aren't played anymore. LaVey admired the most exaggerated technique of organist Paul Carson on his Bridge to Dreamland radio program in the 30s and 40s. Carson also did the music for other shows like One Man's Family and I Love a Mystery. Professional musicians used to joke about how LaVey would milk emotion from a song. I like no bullshit music, says LaVey. Straight renditions, not jazzed up or to be bebopped, but augmented, supercharged, to bring out the real strengths of the piece. It's all in the arrangement and orchestration. People don't play that way anymore except in Las Vegas superclubs, Italian picnics, Jewish weddings, klezmorim, and junior high bands. Consider that when you are listening to a piece of music, largely forgotten by the rest of the world, the chance that someone else is listening to that same music at the same time you are is not very high. If it is evocative music, it is all the better because if there is indeed some unnameable power we can tap into, your heightened experience of that music at that instant in time will shine forth like a beacon. LaVey feels this uniqueness is essential for a successful ritualization. Tiny Tim was a wonderful medium for those old songs sung straight. He learned them by listening to scratchy old records. He was far too ahead of his time. Considering Anton LaVey's more diabolical concentrations, one might suspect that he would inevitably blend these two obsessions in experimentation. In fact, he's been doing just that for a very long time, and credits music as the catalyst for some of his most successful magical workings. His explorations on the physical effects of music led him to Tesla's work with his black box. It was a small device that produced black sound, vibrations at such a low frequency as to be hardly audible to the human ear, but which have a disastrous effect on any structure that the sound is focused on, causing it to vibrate against itself and eventually break apart. It's the sound of earthquakes and the lion's roar, a dull throb which is felt more than heard. To test this black box, Tesla attached it to a building under construction not far from his workshop. Upon his return, he found the building had suffered severe structural damage. LaVey experiments with white and pink noise, as well as black sound. He incorporates Pythagorean theories and the advantages of just intonation for bringing out textures and sounds by pitching each tone separately. Blending this knowledge with the emotional reactions he has observed in people, he develops methods of creating effects with music that go far beyond simply playing the tunes. Music is a complete evocation, like a smell. It can bring an entire memory and feeling back to you in a rush. Much more complete than even a photograph. You allow yourself a certain visual distance with photos, not music. It envelops you. There's no way to escape it. It's a great test of sensitivity. The degree of reaction to music. I use it all the time. I call it my music test. People today don't want to hear the truth. They're really afraid of tranquility and silence. They're afraid they might begin to understand their own motivations too well. They keep a steady stream of noise going to protect themselves, to build a wall against the truth. Like African natives beating on their drums, rattling their gourds, shaking their bells to scare off evil spirits. As long as there's enough noise, there's nothing to fear or hear. But they will listen. Times are changing. There are, according to LaVey, certain irresistible song reactions, universal to all beings on a very primitive level. This response crosses over into animals, even plants. Chord progressions of one kind will make us laugh, while another will make us blue. Hitler used this kind of universality to his advantage with his impelling marches of the Third Reich. The music of Herbert Wind and others during World War II in Germany will have to eventually be recognized as great music. Unusual applications for commonplace things. Thousands of people have synthesizers, but how many use them the way I do? Right now, it's practically illegal to use keyboards for my purposes. It might as well be written on the books. Evoking emotions and energy with songs like I Remember You might as well be against the law. How often do you hear that kind of music on the radio? Since LaVey has learned most of the songs he plays by ear, and he is not limited to a small repertoire of songs, he doesn't rely on sequencers. He likes the freedom to tap into whatever tune he might feel compelled to play at the moment. When he records his music, he usually does this in one take, allowing his intuition to guide him, to use the spontaneity of a live performance. I probably won't play a song the same way tomorrow as I play it today. Only a pitchman says the same thing the same way twice, without varying a word. If music is a language, why don't people use it with the same subtlety, nuance, and facility as they do the spoken language? Probably because they don't verbalize with the same vocabulary and tone they once did. It has been said that a people's character is reflected in their music. Our culture is a perfect example. If people here walk around using one-syllable words with no color, no variety, no shading, how can we expect our musical language to be any different? LaVey is disdainful of the keyboard music composed and performed today. It's like the emperor's new clothes. Sure, they can sit and make wild noises on their synthesizers and call it music. Who questions? But ask them to pull up a chair and play Gal and Calico or Temptation, or even a straight dramatic version of the Star-Spangled Banner, and they can't do it. They're too pretentious. They can't just play songs. Rock music isn't any better in LaVey's estimation. He sees modern rock as part of the current desensitizing and de-emotionalizing trend of the country. LaVey does have a kind word for Sid Vicious's version of My Way. It was so far out that it really sounded inspired. It fit. The song is enjoyable to listen to again. As for the links between rock music and Satanism in the form of black metal, if the music Anton LaVey plays and loves is any indication, there is no association between the two. As outlined in the Satanic Bible, Satanic principles emphasize an increase in physical awareness, not the deadening of the senses that loud music causes. About the myth of Satanic influence in rock music, LaVey says, they needed an adversary. What would they do without us? Actually, Satanic symbology is the only thing that has kept rock music alive for the past few years. Since MTV, bands rely entirely on visuals, what else can they sell? They certainly can't rely on any musical merit. Kids buy records as badges of affiliation now. They say themselves that they don't listen to the words. They just like what the visuals communicate. And satanic imagery is the most dramatic. Plus, they get the feeling of rebellion which most kids seem to need. The music industry had nothing else to sell, so they reached for the most powerful icons they could think of. Satanism. David Lee Roth even included a little in-joke in the title of one of his 1987 hits, using the last words from the Satanic Bible, Yankee Rose. But all these bands, with the single exception of King Diamond, who has the courage to openly support Satanism and makes no secret of his dedication, stridently deny charges that they are advocating actual devil worship. It's all in fun. It's the old story of using the devil's name to make your millions, but not wanting to play the devil's game. Young people now have been exposed to satanic symbols all their lives. They call themselves Satanists because it's cool, it's rebellious, and all their friends are doing it. They give the sign of the horns as a high sign, a greeting, like the peace sign in the 60s. LaVey wrote in the Satanic Bible, the sign of the horn shall appear to many, now, rather than the few. But he had no idea how prophetic these words will become. But for every young person you see holding up the sign of the horns at rock concerts, ignorant of the satanic thought behind it, there are others who hold communion with the true satanic principles in private, between classes at Harvard, or before a big meeting at the office. Satanic music is not heavy metal and rock and roll. The real satanic influence is seen in the revival of the lyrical, evocative music LaVey has been playing all his life. The music industry has gone as far as it can in one direction. All that does is create a climate for a backlash. In this case, a return to lyrical music. When people get a taste of evocative music, they drink it up like a thirsty man gulps water. It is so satisfying compared with the noise that has been foisted on us for the past 30 years. The revival has already started. All it needs is a name. You can't market anything without a catchy label. Someone smart will come along and give it a name so record stores can set up new sections of records. The music I advocate is not big band, not jazz, not soul, not swing. These are straight renditions of popular songs that probably had a short burst of attention on the radio when they were first released, but then were forgotten. Because maybe they didn't quite become million sellers, or they weren't featured in the right movie, even though they might have been used as background music. They're already being recorded by singers like Linda Ronstadt and Pia Zadora, and the number of re-released songs by Rudy Vallee, Buddy Clark, Al Jolson, and Nat King Cole are growing larger all the time. It's inevitable. Of course, when everyone is playing this new music, one aspect of the magic will be gone: exclusivity. With this music playing everywhere, the power of its uniqueness will be less. That's all right, replies LeVay. The emotional strength of the music itself will never be diluted, as long as it's played straight. Everyone will make the great discovery and try to sell it back to me in a new package. It's always a trade-off, but the world will be a much more pleasant place to live.